Hello there everyone and welcome back. We're going to continue on with our Eldari run and we're face off against Tau finally, at least for the YouTube video. And in truth, I have faced off against the 6 Protector, or was it the 6 Cruiser Fleet Protector Fleet is what I'm eventually trying to say, although it's a little bit of a tongue twister a tiny bit since the cruisers are actually called the Protectors as well, so I don't know what I'm trying to get at there, but nonetheless, I already faced off against that fleet before, and alas, it was incredibly lackluster, and my opponent was incredibly wasteful with their seeker missiles, and that ultimately, at least for Eldari, I imagine would be kind of the main thing I need to be afraid of, because the raw burst potential those seeker missiles can do, especially in combination with the bombers at inconvenient time, can kill my ships incredibly well, but at the same time, I can dodge them to a limited extent. It's just a problem of being overwhelmed if I don't deal with them properly by either losing vision or just shoot them down is the big catch there. Since, sure, I may dodge some of the seeker missiles, but due to the fact that they all come in at different angles, the second wave or when they turn around is going to be so much more difficult for me to deal with. So ideally, I'm going to be utilizing the stasis bomb to try and pin them down, especially if I'm in an awkward position where maybe the fighters have vision on me. I'm going to try and trap the fighters, trap the seeker missiles, and ideally, best case situation, be close enough to a gas cloud or asteroid belt where I can easily just hide myself. And to a limited extent, it is a little more random on how effective it is, but the fighters can also do the same thing, at least force the fighters, their fighters, from staying locked on to the target, and be forced to either chase after the fighters, or my fighters rather, and just deny vision basically, as another alternative means, but like I said, that's a bit more random because they're likely to die really quickly, at least in the case of a 6 cruiser fleet, but for this merchant fleet, it is going to be, I think, 4 cruisers, and then the battleship instead. I think it's even the battleship that has the 4 bomber bays, so it's the carrier version as opposed to the hybrid with the 8 seeker missiles. And they even have a light cruiser on the left side there that I am going to randomly run into, because I do use this light cruiser to try and steal points behind them. I did not pay too much attention to if one of them was a battleship or not, but I do see the fighters, so you've seen this before, you've seen it plenty of times. You know what the purpose of me concealing myself is, although, again, it is a tiny bit random. It seems like with the fighters just continuing to fly towards me. So I'm a little worried about getting spotted before I grab that center objective that I'm flying towards now. But otherwise, there's 3 points on the right here. The cruisers are going to try and flank and steal them ideally if possible. And then just play it by ear. Is my opponent going to try and use the gas clouds and force me to kind of come to him? Kind of like what we've seen with the last episode against... I can't remember the Chaos player's name, but it was the 4 battleship Chaos fleet, but then I'm realizing there was like 3 or 4 of those in the past few episodes. But either way, they have the advantage to kind of stay in these gas clouds, but thankfully, the main source of firepower for a lot of them, the merchant fleet, is kind of their bombers and their seeker missiles, in all honesty, outside of their heroes. It dawned on me a little bit, after a good long while, that their heroes actually have pretty decent firepower on their prow, whereas otherwise everything else kind of has their weaponry on all the arcs, which splits their firepower quite a bit there for trying to kill me at least. But with 4 heroes and the 83 armor, they definitely should be taken seriously. It goes without saying, but right now, I'm looking at my opponent's heading. It doesn't seem like my opponent has any real interest, as I get scanner pulsed on the right there, so that gives away where some of the frigates are. Never mind the fact that they're giving them away too with the seeker missiles. So, and this is where the random light cruiser appears out of nowhere. I am going to try and engage this with the light cruiser, since I'm going to get good torpedo hits on and everything, but what you're going to see me try and do is actually ram this thing to death. At least that's the idea. I have no idea if it's actually a good idea or not, if I were to be serious. Because there's a torpedo hit there. Since we have the same armor, but they have more health, let's keep that in mind. They have the equivalent to what Imperial Navy and Chaos has for hit point pool. if I were to ram them on the rear, because I think their light cruiser has 50 armor on the rear. That would probably be a different story, but at the end of the day, I miscalculated time and take more damage than I'm comfortable with, but it's still close with the pulsars adding to the damage potential. Otherwise, I got 3 points here and trying to fight for the 4th one, which we do see frigates coming to help a little bit. And this thing is so damn close to dying, I want to try and kill it off. I'm feeling greedy, I'm feeling devilish here. Sadly, the light cruiser, at least best case situation, is not really meant to kill things. It's been really good at spotting for me, essentially. Especially for some of those awkward matches where I kind of need vision, or it's the Asuryani mirror matches is kind of where it may shine most. But I'm still trying to figure out how much I can push the light cruiser, since otherwise it's just being relegated to capturing points outside of vision. I'm aiming to kill off as many frigates as I can, since, after all, this many frigates makes it almost impossible for me to dodge seeker missiles if they're diligent enough. But since they were kind enough to have the majority of them go after a light cruiser, it's not nearly as much of a problem for at least the Phoenix. The cruisers, on the other hand, might be in danger if I don't pay close attention to what the main fleet's doing. Since now they're chasing after him, I did evade the 1 seeker missile onslaught at least, so I am thankful there. Maybe I killed a frigate in time. That's something I'll have to double check on. But like I said, I'm trying to kill this light cruiser, and in the end, when all is said and done, their light cruiser's like 98 points, unless it's the one with the grav hooks, which I don't know how much the light cruiser itself would cost, with that said, after factoring the 2 frigates. But either way, my light cruiser is 144 points about. It simply put is not really worth it, especially since to get the kill, I have to ram the ship. Oh, and it was the one with the gravity hooks. Oh no, that was my light cruiser, and I was completely wrong. It's actually 172 points. We actually have a score indicator towards that alone. But yeah, everything's going as I want. I was kind of hoping to, at least my game plan was, just wait until at least 2 of their secret missile charges are burnt out, then look into engaging my opponent. But since my opponent's kind of ignoring all the objectives together, despite the opportunity they had just to grab that one objective, which will change in a moment because of the battleship, I'm perfectly fine with just keeping my distance and just harassing, ideally. That's the entire purpose here. But I was planning on getting aggressive once I saw at least 2 charges, maybe burn out all their seeker missiles. That would probably be the best case situation, but right now, we have 3 frigates to kill up top, so that's my heading right now. Kill them off, grab the points, and then just continue to run. Since the score is already starting to add up in these few early minutes of the match already, from having access to 3 points to none. And with these 2 frigates spotted, I'm going to try and kill them off there. Try to anyway. I'm going to fly right past them when I do my ramming attempt though. And here comes the second wave of torp seeker missiles, and the main thing I'm worried about is the scanner pulses, which they just implement, so this is where I'm going to be utilizing. Well, actually, the seeker missiles, I don't think I have any fighters on them at the moment, so maybe that's not as big of an issue, but this is where I would use the stasis bomb, in all honesty. And this is kind of also the reason why you need the fighters that kind of help screen for these seeker missiles, because there is no vision for them right now, even if... yeah, the bombers are lagging behind there, so no vision. The gas cloud's kind of done, so this is... but the scanner pulse is what I need to wait on, so I'm watching intently for that beacon to fall off. But even then, I'm fine. I have a stasis bomb for the last case situation. And these fighters can single-handedly deal with all these bombers, let's not kid ourselves. It already dealt with the seeker missiles too. So maybe that, in truth, that may have been a riskier gambit than it probably should have, with so many frigates, and I only killed off like maybe 2 of them. So they could have continued to keep vision despite my stasis bomb, but so far, the fighters are MVP right now. They are destroying everything. And I'm about to steal the 4th point in the middle of the map, and like I said already, my opponent just abandoned the objective for me to just win strat means, so I'm just okay. I'm perfectly fine with not engaging and not committing. Although, with these fighters now coming here, I don't really have any gas cloud or anything to kind of conceal myself with. So they're just serving as base, the main thing here. I didn't see the experimental railgun because it was invisible, but that's what I was just hit with there for a moment. And with me being wedged in a corner, this is where it's going to get scary for me. Because my opponent can kind of circle around in a tighter arc and eventually catch up to me, despite my best intentions. And with only 2 fighter squadrons, with my point defense and brace for impact, I should be in good shape to deal with these fighters. So I just gotta make sure the fighters themselves, my fighters, don't just trail behind their some, which is about to happen in a moment. So I think this is when let's see, I'm looking at the stasis bomb time. I'm gonna get ready to turn around momentarily. I think the plan. We got a little bit of chipping damage, but that was mainly from the Maelstrom itself. And another Maelstrom comes in, and I just go in and commit to damage. I believe that was all their secret missile charges, although I will admit I did a terrible job keeping track of that. I was not counting so much since once I realized my opponent just ran off, I was just content winning through the objective. And then just look for opportunities to accelerate. That was the idea here. Sadly, Stasis Bomb was not helpful in the slice here since my opponent's just going to easily bypass and circle around them. So I'm going to try and sprint past these bombers, and at the same time have my fighters maybe try and cripple them, ideally. Sadly, pulsars hit the wrong target, and I didn't take any bomber damage there. That was the point of saving the Wraithbone shift to the last second. And so far there are no fighters, and I have my own fighters to kind of defend and tag all these at once. Although, it was probably not the best choice to turn around as I did, because the stasis bomb expires, so they are getting my face, and I second guessed the torpedo shot there, since they would have likely been duds if I wasn't careful. But damn, do they hurt when they connect fully like that. Despite all the boarding that's going on here, I am still about 700 points away with 4 objectives, and we're in a position to kind of fight this fleet. It's going to be all over the place with my 2 cruisers attack behind the battleship there. But I am going to fight this now. It's going to be a trick of the question on how I'm able to hit that one crippled cruiser in the middle of that bunch now. Since I'm not really aiming for it, since I'm looking for opportunity torpedo hits. To try and get what burst damage I can, but... And sadly, my Phoenix is not well equipped to kind of deal with that. And sadly, Wraithbone shift is just a few seconds off. I could have boosted away and dodged that, but what I'm going to do is just turn around behind them, stall a bit, try and turn them away from the rest of my fleet, which I'm mismanaging a tiny bit here due to burn retros. But everything's crippled. There's 400 points left to score, and I am about to lose this other cruiser as well because of the engine damage. So it's getting a bit ugly. And I messed up on the pulsar shot too. But right at this point, I think 3 of the ships have lost their engines, if not 4 from this torpedo salvo. No engines are still up, but it's primed for a death if I choose to turn around and kill it off. Everything's primed for a death right now. So 1 down, and then just 3 to go, and all of them are limping. It's just the 1 cruiser chasing us now that has its engines. So it was looking bad for me for the briefest of moments, just because of the ramming damage alone and the bombers that did manage to connect there briefly. But we only have 30 seconds till this is a victory. The moral of the story, my opponent decided to abandon a really good defensive position, I would argue, with the 2 gas clouds, and decide to run me down constantly. Which, honestly, was probably not the best choice there. If I were to be honest, They could have tried harassing me with fighters and bombers all day, and when I was ready to commit, they could have launched a couple secret missiles to kind of intimidate me. Although, it's so Slendam I play against Tau now, for some reason, that I don't know how Tau would best approach secret missiles. Stagger them would be nice, but only if you're confident you won't lose vision. Alright, match number 2, and we're finally gonna face off against Corsairs. I don't think Corsairs in truth are in a bad position right now, but I'm even gonna make a comment on how rare it's been to encounter Corsairs. But with the tweaks that they made to make them a little more resilient against critical hits, but on the offset make them more fragile to ramming, I think it's self-explanatory what my strategy might be in this type of matchup, since you kind of seen it to a vague extent with Drukhari in my previous matches way back when. We're gonna be trying to get bullish in their face and ramming them to death, since my pulsars, much like an Asuryani mirror match, is gonna be a little bit limited in their firepower unless I'm somehow lucky enough to hit with the disruption bomb. That would be the key thing there, alas, and sure, this Corsair opponent is a lower admiral level, mind you, so I don't think they have all the things unlocked, and hell, the Tau player we played against before in the last match, I'm pretty certain I've seen them before, especially playing as the Protector fleet. I just don't know what kind of experience they have with that fleet, to be perfectly honest. Either way, once I spot them, I'm going to try ramming them. I'm going to try killing them by getting in their face, ideally. The trick, of course, with Corsairs as opposed to Drukhari is trying to find them. And they're going to be a lot more elusive to pin down and spot, at least in comparison to Drukhari, of course, which give away their position at the start, and of course Tyranids, which are at least a lot more slower, and if they decide to rush, that helps me a ton with spotting the Tyranid player. Of course, the Wraithbone shift can also be heard, which I'm checking for here, and the majority of them are over on the right. I don't think I paid too much attention to if they have a Void Stalker or not, but either way, what they're going to be utilizing instead is a bunch of cruisers. So they're going to be going for all the falls, is it? With the carrier bays as well. No, it's actually the Eclipses. The falls are the ones with the torpedoes, I'm wrong. But I do recall playing a Corsair match against Asuryani, but that was with my light cruiser and the Void Stalker. And for the early portions of that game, I was kind of demolishing them slowly but surely. Mainly because, well, if you think back to my match with Void Weaver, you kind of can get a hint of how that would play out. Just imagine the light cruisers doing the same thing as my light cruiser did against Void Weaver, but amplify that to my entire fleet being capable of that. With the Void Stalker, of course, having the convenience of extra range for being able to evade safely. I think I even had the micro warp jump as well in that match, so I believe even if I were to get cornered in the map and they commit to chasing my Void Stalker down in that one particular matchup, I could have jumped away if I was preemptive enough about it. Either way, the beacon's survey is a little bit of area denial, trying to provide vision of these gas clouds, since it may have been a bit of a mistake. I was seriously double guessing and really worried maybe my two cruisers would get spotted, and hell, you even heard them boosting towards my cruisers briefly at some point. So I changed my stance to reload for that reason alone, because I know they are there, I heard them boosting, I even heard the scanner pulse too. So, if my opponent's chasing me, they're chasing after these two cruisers down here. Although thankfully, whether it's the Void Stalker or cruisers, they still go the same speed as each other. So there isn't any real risk, unless they cut me off due to being closer to the middle of the map. But I get some reassurances right now what we're up against, or at least the entire fleet's going to be revealed in a moment. And we're going to know what we're facing basically, or at least the grand majority of it anyway, since there's going to be, what, 4 of these cruisers? I don't know if I make note of the carrier bays, but I am prioritizing the generators still, with the window I have presented to me. So I got some detection, although they're going to use the gas cloud easily to conceal themselves. But when the engagement starts, at least I have the critical hit, or at least the generators prioritized, which are going to be a big deal. Because even though the fragile trait's been buffed for Corsairs as far as critical hits, it's still a ridiculous chance to critically hit with a single pulsar with that all said and done. We're looking at just over, well, around 50% critical hit chance before you factor in the resilience. I just got a hit with the pulsars, of course, is the big thing. And with 75% reduction on hollow fields, that's not going to be the most reliable thing. But they give away their position vaguely with the beacon, so I'm good there. I have 3 points, so I'm content to stay where I'm at. Let them make the first mistake, since I can't really do a whole lot with engaging my opponent right now. And this beacon, while not really helpful, again, it denies them concealing themselves in the gas cloud some if my opponent was to try and run away from me. And I see him boosting in, so I turn in to engage right now. Hell, I even use this disruption bomb to kind of be a deterrent mostly. Although, my opponent is going to try and evade, but most of them still get stuck. Hell, I even destroy that generator instantly, mainly because they decide to stand still for that briefest period. And that's what cost them immensely there. And hell, everything got their generators destroyed. It is a lack of experience playing Eldari that's kind of hindering my opponent right now, but right now I have 2 cruisers about to ready to fire here, and they are unhindered in their damage potential right now. And the rest should be history briefly, because even then, with the Wraithbone shift there, yeah, generators are just dying immediately just because of the fragile trait, it looks like. Yeah, lack of experience is showing, but I do feel like at least certain fleet compositions can fight Asuryani, at least if you're the Corsair player. I witnessed it firsthand, it's just a shame I did not record that at any point to at least see how it's done. It is a slow and methodical type of playstyle, as you have to make sure you never get revealed, especially with cruisers or the Void Stalker ideally. For light cruisers, at least have salt running once they get outside detection, and their higher speed makes them a lot more reliable to at least safely disengage too. So this match is over. It's just one frigate that we seen early on that's just hiding somewhere. It's definitely going to be a different type of matchup there, but alas, it's a simple one at that. It's just the fact that my opponent is Corsairs, it gives me an opportunity to at least talk about that matchup if nothing else. Just may not have been the most exciting. Since my opponent did boost into that disruption bomb, basically, they would have to do a hard disengage with their falls maneuver, I would imagine, if they want to at least get out of the disruption bomb and not get revealed by me. So they kind of screwed themselves a tiny bit there, is the moral of that story. But I feel like, with a Void Stalker, almost the Void Stalker alone can do a lot of work. It would be a slow process, but if you have any frigates you just spot the Asuryani player, especially if they're trying to use gas clouds with scanner pulses, you can very safely chip them down. Just gotta make sure you have the range, and maybe some stasis bomb to help with trying to give you some more breathing room. And I feel like a micro warp jump would be helpful there if you get enough lead time to just jump across the map for when you do get cornered. But hopefully, we'll get ourselves some more Eldari matchups, because in all seriousness, I do want to play more with the Asuryani mirror match, because I feel like the light cruiser could do something there. I just need to fine tune it. Since it is an honest question even to myself, why I have that ship to begin with, if I were to be serious. Alright, match number 3, and after a while, it seems like we're going to face off against Orcs again. And alas, at least probably for the viewer experience, Orcs are probably the most simplistic and maybe uninteresting type of matchup, just because I'm outrunning and circling around my opponent the entire time, much like every other matchup, it would seem. But Orcs are kind of really limited in their mobility, so that's kind of really easy to do. And you're almost kind of forced to play an objective-based game against Orcs, just simply because of how devastatingly powerful their tractor cannon and mega cannons can be. I think we've all been on the receiving end of mega cannons, so I think that's understandable on that point, especially with Eldari, which kind of need their mobility to avoid getting screwed over. And when you can't even turn to try and avoid the mega cannon shots, it's going to be really punishing really quickly, even with the best attempts, the best intentions of the Asuryani player. So we're going to be doing more of that, but there is conveniently a handful of objectives here again for my orc opponent to kind of sit by. Although, I have recently played an orc mega cannon type of fleet, so you kind of seen it from my perspective against Drukhari of all factions, which probably would be the most irritating and most frustrating for orcs to play against. I did lose the first match, but that may have simply came down to an upgrade that I chose not to get with the lots of thrusters, and I won quite handily against Drukhari in the second one. So it definitely is possible, it's just a question, how enjoyable is it, you would think. Many people would probably not be excited about that prospect. But hey, the players are respecting your firepower and your durability. That's not really a bad thing if you're an orc player, right? It's just a question on how can that be enjoyable, with that said. Since my opponent is utilizing at least 4 battleships this time and a single cruiser. I'm not sure what the cruiser is supposed to serve, but it's still a mega cannon style type of fleet with that all said. And they have the right idea, they're going to bull rush through and see about maybe securing all these points down on my end of the map. At least it would be the right idea. And I do deploy my light cruiser to see about grabbing the point on the right, because I kind of suspected that, if I were to be honest. So I'm happy my opponent at least has the sense to realize that the left side of the map is more advantageous to him, because now I get to exploit it. Although, it goes without saying I still have 4 frigates to deal with the light cruiser. So it's not as easy as it sounds, especially with 200 shields on each of those frigates too. So I'm going to have to fire a pulsar salvo, run off, and then have it turn around to fire again while the shields are down, if I actually want to eventually kill off that fleet. But yeah, I said it before, and I'm going to say it again, the main strategy is ideally never get in range of the prow of the flagship, just because of the tractor cannon. I do try and tempt fate a little bit by gauging when I'm safely out of range of the tractor cannon though, because of its convenient placement at least. I should be able to fire on this one battleship on the right, or in the middle rather, and not get pulled into certain death, and even then, only 1, maybe 2 mega cannons could probably shoot at me, or at least 2 ships worth of mega cannons rather. As I prepare for the frigate assault, which I'm going to engage from the flank just in case they boost me randomly. So I get ready for my attack run, decks prioritize on all these things to at least see about managing them a little bit here. They are battleships, so I'm not realistically expecting to get any critical hits on them, at least not the ones that I ideally want. But we are getting fire assaults at least, and it looks like I destroyed a weapon on the prow there so far, but other than that, nothing too exciting just yet. Just wait for them to boost and maelstrom the hell out of them, basically, is what the name of the game is there right now. And they're going to suffer immense damage as a result. And the 270-degree arc of the last cannons is actually pretty convenient here. Not a whole lot of damage, since after all we are talking about 83 armor. But it is kind of convenient nonetheless, especially against the frigate maybe, to kind of get some critical hits on it. But other than that, I think I'm skirting along the edge of safety, so I'm going to do a hard disengage here, and then my entire fleet's going to come over here and help deal with these frigates. And yeah, that maelstrom and the fire assaults are doing work. We did eventually get the deck though, temporary damage, so it is out of the fight, but I'm not content with that, especially with the window we currently have here. The flagship's just entering the screen now, so I do have a bit of breathing room. I am, again, tempting fate with the mega cannons, which are showing some damage. So, as I said, I am trying to get a little more bolder to see what I can get away with. And so far, it is kind of working out well. It's just a question if the 600 health or 400 health I just lost on the one cruiser was worth it or not. I would argue it was, but you never can tell with the possibility of critical hits to destroy my engines. Otherwise, now I'm going to clean up the frigates, grab this one point here with my fleet, and then see, well, actually I'm going to split up my fleet here and try and flank one of them, a portion of them at least. Although this is going to get precarious since I am getting closer and closer to the edge of the map, which is always a terrifying position to be in, especially if your opponent is relentlessly pursuing you. In this case, my opponent is grabbing objectives behind, or at least has been grabbing objectives while I'm flying away with one of their battleships. So, they can threaten to take the lead on the point score, if not just pincer me along the edge as I said before. So I am going to split up the fleet to see where they go and then try and engage or break through with the other portion of the fleet. Sadly, the stasis bomb was a little bit misplaced due to the timing of the big red button, but I think, no, my maelstrom's not up yet, so I mistimed that a tiny bit. But there's the tractor cannon activating now. I make note of that. I forget what the time is now for it since it was nerfed to maybe 45 seconds. But I'm trying now. Well, I already said I'm splitting up the fleet. It's just the awkwardness of the corner, or being wedged in the corner, and depends on where my opponent decides to go after. In this case, he's going to go after the 3 ships on top, the 2 cruisers and the light cruiser. And thankfully, my Phoenix is going to do amazing work here with the constant sustained fire as a result. Since, yeah, hell, I don't even know how the armor will work if those las cannons with that boost are actually hitting the rear of the ship or the side. Because of the weird behavior and how the las cannons work where they track the target. And there's the tractor cannon again, which for some reason, no visual effect, which is a weird bug, but I at least hear it and am aware of it. And I'm kind of admitted to this frigate or cruiser being dead. So I'm going to do as much damage as humanly possible. And thankfully my opponent's going to turn around for me there, despite the boarding I just gave him. Which is going to be pretty close to getting this ship killed in a moment. But we're away from the prow, this thing's going to take a while to turn around, and we just destroyed his escorting battleship. So this is very promising to be a clean kill here. I feel I am honestly happy with how much more aggressive I am trying to get with Asuryani. It's just trying to figure out how to best do that while not getting instantly bored as a result. Since my crew complement can leave me very vulnerable, as made apparent by the fact that my one cruiser did lose its entire crew right now. So I am still a little bit worried about that, since losing my engines or even a generator in that point is going to be a death sentence for at least one of my ships with such a maneuver. But ultimately I am kind of happy with how it plays out. Maybe I just need to be a little more cautious and make sure I'm a little more further away, which is definitely going to be hard to do against some opponents because of their high energy turn. They stay outside 4,500 range. But their fleet's completely wiped out, and there's the one battleship over there. So this is pretty much over at this point. My opponent's just going to take the lead just as I'm getting ready to get... Yeah, once I'm in position to actually start taking these points, they're going to get caught up in the score. If they could have somehow kept that fleet alive, or at the very least maybe kept chasing me, or at least kept intimidating me for a little bit longer, this could be a close match otherwise, just because of that one battleship and its tenacity. Otherwise, I'm very confident in killing this off right now. It's the last ship in the fleet, since the frigates don't have silent running. And we have a couple of ships with no generators and engines, so a bit of a motley crew, needless to say. Then other than that, there's not really much else to say. We're just a bit of downtime. I suppose I could skip over this, but I do honestly believe getting super aggressive can be a failing if done poorly. Since I already hinted at already, I was playing against a blind opponent with the 2 Drukhari matchups with this kind of fleet before. I even posted on YouTube, and both of those were basically wins for me. I did lose the first one, but I feel like just a simple upgrade change could have turned that around for me with the lots of thrusters as opposed to whatever the hell upgrade I took for that matchup. I honestly can't remember. Either way, I'm going to keep this cruiser in the gas cloud, try and start softening them up, and the Phoenix is going to have a field day by getting the flank and hopefully the rear of the ship. Since these last cannons are going to do amazing, if they can keep their sustained fire going. That's going to be the real trick with any type of macro cannons for any of the Eldari fleets. If you can have them engage for at least 20 seconds, then they should in theory be doing tremendously more damage than the pulsars. The pulsars are just more convenient that they allow me to do this maneuver where I can disengage some. Yeah, other than that, focusing the target can be really damn tricky. And already we're doing good work on the critical hits. 2 fire assaults, it's stuck in the middle of a maelstrom. I do get a little reluctant about flying in their point blank range to reveal it, so since it could be turning around right this very moment. So I wait for the fighters, launch, and then just clean up that way. And right now my opponent just taking the lead, so if they had a way to survive a little bit longer, or at least the rest of their fleet keep that alive or distract me a little bit longer, this definitely would be a pretty close match, especially if they manage to score a kill on one of these cruisers that's taken damage already. That could have made the difference there. And that is going to basically be all she wrote. The pulsar fires are going to be enough as is, especially with the fire assaults to kind of force a mutiny. Yeah, the fire assaults alone should seal the deal, but this Phoenix is going to steal the glory, as it were. Get hit by a torpedo in the process, but hey. It may be a very unsatisfying type of match to watch, but it's like I said. Respect the Orc firepower, respect their durability, or you're going to suffer a humiliating defeat.